proposals to us, and we've got a couple things to bring back. I know that we also had a couple of asks from you, so we'll see what you agreed on those. The first thing that we do want to be really clear is we just, that the salary offer was reasonable, but we still think that it's not quite where we're talking about the ESP first. Sorry, I didn't need to clarify that. So that we will clarify, we'll do that first, we'll get that in order, then we'll go to the teacher questions, okay? So we think that the ESP proposal, if we're kind of proposing an 8% increase.
Plus step,
Sorry?
plus step.
Plus step, same as before, so 7 and 8%. That, and then the other thing we noticed is that on the grid, for the salary grids, that we had proposed a year 25, and it wasn't on the proposal, so we were hoping that just got reflected. We wanted to move the salary grid so it reflected 25 as well. And we have that to give out as well, so it's updated. And there was a question about some of those. I think we clarified those, cleaned those up. Is that right, Megan?
Yeah, we're good.
And that's really what we have for the ESP. So, yep, this is the salary grade. I'll pass that so everybody has a copy of it. And those are the two counters that we have for ESP.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So when you're talking about doing,
So the 25th step is $1 more than 20.
okay, yep, that's, I think hadn't gotten to that. So you've got 24, 25, and that's what this says on all of them. So is that
This is just
the appendix A, which is just doing it for the first, for 24, 25?
Nope, there's 24, 25, and then under it is 25, 26 for each group.
so first one is 24, 25, the next one right below that is 25, 26. That's the first group, and then the second page, there's a 24,
Okay,
25.
yep, I see, all right, yep. Okay. So, for both years, you're looking for 8% in step
Right.
each year?
You
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can go on, if you'd like to talk about the teachers, you can digest it all later, or do you want to kind of stop there and see if we can come to an agreement on that? That's kind of where, we'll be ready to go on if you're ready, but I just want to check and see where you guys are on this.
You would like to hold off?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, we'll hold off, and I think we'll talk as a group together about the.
Okay,
what we're putting in.
okay, cool. So we'll put the ESP aside, we'll look at, the contract proposals. And, yeah, we can do that. So there's some, counters we wanted to come back with. First, on salary, yeah, we know that the offer on the table is an offer that's reasonable. We know that, it's more than it's been in the past, and it reflects a lot of the things. Sometimes we still really want to emphasize that if we are to attract talent here in this school district, we need to be equitable. And we need to be equitable, especially within our own school district. So we really believe that, that we, the teachers here at Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union and the teachers in Arlington should be on the same grid since we're in the same school district. So we really are trying to hold firm on that. So we're not prepared to counter on salary. Any questions on that right now?
Nope.
Okay. So we have a couple counter offers we're hoping that we could agree to. If we're looking at 10.1, we need to just get around everybody. Okay, these are our counter proposals that we realized that the sick thing wasn't a sticking point, but we kind of modified it a little bit. We think that if we word it in this way instead, so that teachers who have accrued at least 100 sick days may have an option to be paid $100 per day for up to 10 unused sick days. It's a maximum of $1,000, right, mathematically, and then the unused sick days will be paid out as lump sum at the final payment of the school year, and the remainder of unused sick days will be rolled into the accrued sick time. Again, this is hoping teachers will use less sick days if only needed, right? That I think we both agree that's important. So we're prepared to counter back with that. Any questions on that one?
Although I will ask, so the way you have it phrased is for each school year, what you're saying is be paid $100 per day for up to 10 used sick days in each school year?
So at the end of each school year,
At the
you
end of
could,
each school
right? And that's where it says that the unused sick days will be paid out as lump sum in the final payment of the school year. So they can opt in to do that or not, right? It's an option. Okay, 29.24, this has to do with the coverage. We said, okay, we think that we need to have this, but if 2 isn't, we're going to put in no more than 3 days instead of no more than 2 days. So that, it's a lot anyway, when you think about it. Covering an extra class 3 days a week is enough, I think. So that's why we still think that's really important. So we're prepared to say 3 days instead of 2. Any questions on that one? Okay, this is a really important one, but we think that kind of got overlooked maybe, or we weren't really clear. But on 29.6, about the calendar date, we realized that the calendar is difficult, especially that it's pretty much looking at next year already, and to change that is difficult, but we think, and we are really clear about this, we think that we need to get rid of the half days, that we can increase student contact time. We just think that those need to go. So we're proposing that at the end of 29.6, it says barring the half day before Thanksgiving and the half days used for closing semesters and trimesters, there will be no half day in service days.
And so that I understand, just to make sure, a half day in service day is where the kids are here in the morning, they leave, and then you're required to do PD. And so what are you saying, that you should be released at the half day?
No,
or
we're
No,
having-
kids stay all day.
Kids stay all day.
We're going to increase our student contact time, a half a day for each one.
But you don't want to do professional development, is what you're saying? Is Is that, am I?
Well, we
understanding
would
that?
like to put that professional development, like you said, in the beginning of the school year, to add those there, but we realize how difficult that might be to change the calendar. So if we can't come to an agreement on that, we would be prepared to agree if we can come up to an agreement on not having half days. And I think the parents and the community would be in favor of this as well.
So that does bring up, before we go anywhere,
Sure.
and I just want to make sure that the board is aware of it, is that with your counter proposals, you're still saying that all the other proposals that you put forward, you're still looking for all your other proposals? Or are you saying, because you did have a proposal about the professional development issue, or are you saying that these are what your proposals are now?
Okay, so after you guys came back with your counters and which ones we've accepted and not, right? These are the ones that we went back and said, we can't say it's okay to say no to, okay? So we know that there's not an agreement on many of the things that we added, but we are asking that we do agree to these because these are really important issues for us. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Sidebar. Right, okay.
It's not, okay, yeah, not embarrassing. Sorry, so maybe this answers the question better. So we are not necessarily saying that, okay, this is all we want. We just think that we can come to an agreement on these. We think that these are things that we can both agree on. We want to get any of those done with. We think the safety language is really important. That is on our menu tonight. We will talk about that when we get to that. So we're not prepared to give up some of those things, but we are prepared. I think we can get an agreement on these, and that's what we're trying to do. Okay?
So I apologize, and maybe I'm having a hard time picking this up. Your proposal that you initially gave us for 29.6, the one that you got on October 30th, has as its last sentence, barring the half days before Thanksgiving and half days used for closing semesters and trimesters, there will be no half day in service days. The other new language you had was the sentence before that said 5 of these days shall occur at the beginning of the school year, including no fewer than 3 teacher-directed, could be days. So what I meant, and you also had, and we had the conversation about, you were talking about doing a shift about having teacher designated in-service days as part of your proposal. So what I'm, and again, I apologize because I'm not understanding, since the sentence already existed in your proposal, what the difference is for your proposal for 29.6, whether or not you're removing the shift in the days that you asked for that would be used as teacher designated, if you're saying, hey, we'll stick with what's currently in the contract. And then all you want is the addition of the language barring the half day before Thanksgiving and half days used for closing semesters, that language.
Yeah.
Is that the only thing that you want that you're seeking in your proposal?
Yeah, we're not removing the proposal entirely. We're just trying to come to an agreement on it, and we think that may be the factor, because I know there was an issue of us about contact days. We wanted to make sure it's not about contact days. It is about the half days. We really believe that the half days are counterproductive, that they just are not good for families, they're not good for us, they're not good for professional development. They're just not good. And so we're really trying to find a way to get those off. We really think we need to have full contact. So, the rest of it was just a way to make this happen. We are trying to calculate ways to figure out that the professional day didn't want them to get lost, but we know that this is a sticking point. We just think that it's really important that get release or half days. Does that clarify a little bit? I'm
I think,
I apologize. I'm not really-
we'll roll, yeah.
Makes
let's
sense,
just
okay.
move forward and, yeah.
Thanks, okay. And then, appendix B is related to 29.26. We noted that, that the calculation was wrong, so like, if you look at, the counter, or the offer was that would be 5.2%, and it was calculated in those numbers, the 25, the 38, and the 50, and then it was 40, but we are already at 40, so we would agree to it if the 5.2% applies to the 40 as well. We figured it's about $42 if you round it, we'd be okay with accepting that. So, so that per diem, and that would also affect appendix B, where it says $45, our proposal, we would be okay if it said $42. So that's appendix B. Notice it says A there, but the, I don't see the other part.
As opposed to the $45, you're
It's
saying,
supposed to the $45.
you're modifying it down to 42.
Right, so we had
And
proposed
also-
45, and you guys said it would be 40, but we're saying it already is 40, but you would propose 5.2%, so we're saying if that's fine, but we would like to see it be 5.2%, not 0. But that 40 is still 0, so 5.2 would make it $42.
And that would that also go for appendix B, part B, which talks about, if you turn the page over, I mean, which talks about.
Yes.
It would
Appendix
also
A
go
and
for
B.
that.
Yeah, because it was 20, 50.
So that's the one that talks about teachers assigned to perform special education duties in July and August. If they are assigned, we accept it. We're saying you're saying at $42.
And then, 8.16 is in the safety language area, but we really think this is something kind of different, but it really is important.
So, the question I have about 8.16, and I would ask you to sort of balance out trying to answer the question with also respecting maybe some confidentiality both on your side and on our side, but I think the board would be interested in knowing, having some data points from you all of when, and some history around when you believe that this occurred, this behavior occurred. In other words, you're saying administrators will not reprimand a teacher in the presence of students, parents, other faculty or staff members, witnesses present at the teachers and or administrators' request will not constitute violation of this section. One is, I guess, being curious about how you would define reprimand. And the other one is also having some data points about when you believe this occurred.
Okay.
And sort of the frequency that you think that is occurring.
We don't have those data points tonight, but we also, we want to make a note that, we have a number of fairly new administrators, which not necessarily a bad thing, but we do know that sometimes it happens in the, in the growing of running a building, not thinking about it. We just want to make sure that it's clear that administrators are realizing that this can't happen. If it has happened, and it has happened, we'll get you the data points on that. But we don't want that to happen. So we think that's really important. I don't think there's anything in there that is negative. It's really a positive. It's just saying, it's not saying that they can't reprimand the teacher, but they can't do it in the presence of kids.
So I would agree with you. The problem becomes and the devil becomes in the details for definition wise. There's a difference between supervisory feedback, which can be verbal as well as written, and a reprimand, which can also be typically is a written reprimand. And there is a legal distinction between the two. And that's why I think that the board would be interested in having an idea of situations that you're talking about that you believe were reprimands, and understanding that. And I would point out that that's what the difficulty of, while the provision itself is not something that the board would be adverse to the idea and thinks that it's more appropriate for an administrator to be providing that kind of, a reprimand is disciplinary, first of all. I have to make sure that that's clear. Discipline shouldn't be done in front of other individuals. It would be done privately. It would be done with a member of the bargaining unit having an opportunity to have an association representative or somebody that they felt comfortable in that meeting. That not occurring is problematic from a collective bargaining perspective. That's different than an administrator coming up to you in the hall and saying, hey, look, I saw that you just said something to Johnny and, let's not say things that way to Johnny. That would be more along the lines of supervisory feedback and not a reprimand from an employer's perspective. And so that's why being very cautious about if there is an instance of where there is administrators who are in fact imposing discipline, which is what a reprimand would be, and are doing it outside of the confines of providing the employee the opportunity to have a representative with them. We are very interested in understanding that, because that has to stop. It's not something, quite frankly, that needs to be in the contract. It's something that's already in the law in terms of how you handle the employee. But that's something that if it is occurring, we want to know, because it needs to be addressed.
Okay.
So, I think I explained that. How do you feel about that? So I just want to be clear about that.
I understand, and we can clarify, like I said, we'll get the data points for you, and perhaps the word reprimand isn't the right word there, maybe language can be clarified so that it is exactly what you just said, not, comments, but the discipline, like really, that's what we're talking about. And so we want to make sure that that's clear. And then it isn't on here, but we want to make sure that we dedicate our next meeting to going through and clarifying what safety language we can get into our contract. It is that important right now that every time we talk, that's what comes up. It's all about the safety. We want to be sure that our teachers and staff are safe. So we want to concentrate on what we focused on tonight, and we do want to come back to the table, and you guys will have some time to prepare what you have to present to us about safety, and we will do the same. But we really think that the next meeting should be just dedicated to our safety proposals. So I'm not going to talk about any of those tonight, but they're not off the table. Does that make sense?
What I would say on this, and please, unless you guys want to talk about, do you want to talk about this before sort of in a response about the safety?
Sure.
Yeah.
Safety thing.
About the safety issue, do you want to talk about that first?
I don't think we need to talk about it first. Well, the board's talking about it first?
Yes.
Yes, I think that would be.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. And part of that, okay. Yeah, and part of that, when we get back together with you, I think we'll have some sort of a point of view of where the board is sitting at with that, generally speaking. So, okay. All right, so in terms of your things of like the 403B, the forced compensation, all of that, these are still on the table from your perspective.
We just haven't made any agreements on this, yes.
All right, are there any questions that you all have?
Oh, right.
Is there something else?
We do have some of the tentatives that we agreed to already. So
Oh, that's right, yes,
ready
we
to
did have
go.
that, yeah, that would be
Get
great,
those to you,
and we
sign
can do
them,
that.
sign, and then we can-
Did we decide?
Those off to the side.
I signed last time. And I can continue to sign, but did we pick out a
What was the words? I didn't see them.
who was gonna be?
These are
I
our
can
options.
sign it. She said, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
You
There
want
was
me
an
to sign?
entrance to ESP that was.
You would
Oh,
prefer-
that's mine.
I don't, we would prefer my signatures. I can understand it. I can understand that. I understand, however, I work in the legislature. So therefore, my signature means you. Are you okay with that? If
I
I
mean,
sign?
I feel like.
Well,
They're
that's
just
fine.
signing, I was hearing it, they're posting authority to sign, so.
Right, okay, Chris, you're fine with, as you understood what we were talking about.
I didn't hear anything what you were talking about, but
I'm sorry, because, well, you guys separated yourself out, which is, I had signed previously, for the ground rules, I had signed, and typically I would, we had not discussed that. And I wanted to make sure that the board members were okay with that. Normally, we have, when we have had bigger groups of negotiating, we have had a board member who has been identified as sort of the chairperson. You all did not do that, you identified me as the negotiator. That title.
I was gonna say.
I was gonna say, we might as well say it on CAT, that title was retired with the and so I just want to make sure that as a board member, that you are completely fine with signing the tentative agreements as to your representative.
I think as long as we're all on the same page with that, I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, thank you.
That's-
Now that we just did that in public. Tim
Tim,
will be home listening, and Tim will be very proud of the fact that it ended with him. And now
This,
it's my
this
Tim's
is the,
turn.
sorry, this is the agreement that we agreed last time, we were gonna write up about the personal days, or that's that one. And then we went through the Southwest Tech proposals, and they look good, all of their proposals are on here. So that's what this is.
Okay.
Okay? We sign those.
There are two. So
Then-
So there are two copies.
there are two
Yeah,
copies.
one,
One
I
copy
just,
for-
once you guys want first. The other thing I think we asked last time, on a counter to your offer, which was that if we took out the voluntary language, that we would agree to that.
For the second.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you guys had a time to talk about that, if that was something you want to bring up now, or if you want to do that when we come back.
We're still looking, the board's proposal is still to have it, the sick bank be a voluntary as part of the proposal. So they're keeping their proposal the same way that it had been.
So.
Yeah, you guys, please look at it. So that proposal's not changed from the board's perspective.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, and so we'll go over these, make sure that everybody is in agreement that this is what this is. Did you look at it? Yeah. Alright. Do you all want to see this before I sign it? This is the one where we said that they could have they don't use the 3 personal days, those 3 personal days roll over into their sick days, but they're still have the cap on they still have the cap on their sick amount that they can accumulate total. Yep. Right. Just pass that around, please. Are you gonna keep these or do you want me to keep them? You'll put a copy of this one. And the other one, I'll just have them go through and then we can do that. I think, unless do you guys have questions or for the teachers and the support staff? Yeah, if you'd like to caucus. All right, so I think maybe what we'll do, let's say it's 5:05, I turn my.
Yeah, it's 5 after 5.
So we can caucus, I don't know how long you all think that we may need. You want to start at 15?
Start 15 will come.
And we'll come and get you. If that works for you? I don't know how you're gonna handle.
I'm gonna put everybody in a way.
Okay, except for, please don't put my phone. Alright, what room are you guys gonna be in?
Cosmetology.
You sit there with all the grades.
That's, they're on the other side.
We're in
I was gonna say, because I think I've
Learning.
said, I've where we're at, and I think part of why we had a pretty lengthy discussion is that the board isn't comfortable in responding tonight to the counter proposals without us having the ability to sit and look at what some of the costs are for some of what we're talking about here. Specific, obviously, that's for the sick day issue, and it's also having a conversation about the other ones. We do think on the appendix B, more than likely, we can reach a common ground on that one, and maybe that is something that is one of the first things that we do talk about the next time that we meet, in terms of for that. So I think there are questions that sort of picked up, especially with the counter proposal about the ESP and looking at what the percentage is and well, you said it's 8% plus step, looking at what that actual dollar cost is. Also taking a look at, from the teacher's proposal, you know, it's interesting is when we look at it is that the grids, and not to be, is persnickety perhaps the correct word? Not to be overly persnickety about it, but there's been a lot of discussion about the equity issue with Arlington, and quite frankly, the Arlington grid, if you actually in fact had proposed the Arlington grid, would come at a cost for the younger teachers within the bargaining unit currently, and within that time frame that would be hitting in the lower part of the grid. But we want to take a look at the impact of the grid that you did propose, and counter proposed out to us as well. One of the questions that we had was about with Appendix B, if we understood what you said, and I want to make sure that we understood it, and I did write proposal for A and B, sections A and B, because we did get that clarification from you. But you had referenced the 5.4%, I think, that we had put in on the other ones. Are you saying that you would, if the $42 for subsection A and B of Appendix B is agreed upon by the board, that you would be agreeing to what we propose the other dollar amounts to be, that 5.4%? And the other one's in the 29.26 or something, 29.26, 29.29F, and all of those. Are you, is that what it's an overall agreement, you're tying them all together?
Yeah, I think so.
The per diem and coverage rates, I'll use the language that we have.
Yes.
Okay, so Appendix B and,
So we were proposing 25, but you guys were saying 2250, 28, but yes, and so we agreed that that was okay. We just wanted to make sure that the 40 went to 42 because it didn't actually reflect the increase.
In year two or year
No, and where it just, I'm not sure you mean year two or year one.
So for
We would,
for this, right, the initial proposal was 45. You guys countered with 40, it's already 40.
right,
The current contract says 40, so the counter that you gave was not actually.
and so all we're saying is, we'll come back with 42 there is okay. So that reflects that 5.2, which is what we were trying to get, right? We were trying to get 5.2, and the other numbers reflected that, but we didn't reflect it in the 40, so we wanted to put it in there.
so in other words, Nick, where it says per diem and coverage rates on 29.26, 29.29F, 29.31E, 5,
they're tentatively agreeing to the board proposal on that.
on that, if
Appendix B goes.
If Appendix B goes to 42, if the board will agree that Appendix B goes to 42. That's what you're understanding. maybe you give us 5 minutes to, now that we have the clarity on that, for that one, because maybe we can't come to an agreement today on that. But the other ones, as I said, we still think that we need to be able to put some time into, and we don't want to take your time tonight to do, because we need to work through some math, about that. So, and it also, I guess, will give you an opportunity on the 8.16 for the, what we talked about in terms of what we're curious about for data points. Do we want to step out for 5 minutes? Does that make sense to the board? Can we step out? Do you guys mind if we just step out for 5 minutes?
I mean, we can go.
Well, I think it's easier that way, we don't have to knock
Just
everybody, but we are going to forewarn you, Cat TV is listening in to you. And Richard is as well taking notes, so please do not discuss anything that you would want to be confidential, okay?
Thank you for letting us know that.
We can unlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give us, it may not even.
Let me grab it here.
We're not even looking at any finish that.
What did you just
I
say?
said it may not even be 5 minutes.
Oh. There you go. One. Okay. I do these all the time.
Does somebody have your, I don't know if you
So when was your baby done?
June.
Due in June?
Mhm.
Well, congratulations.
You said you have all grandsons right now? 6 grandsons, no granddaughters. So I'm hoping.
I have
11 granddaughters.
love them either way, but
Oh, I will love you either way.
and 5 grandsons.
Are you ready?
Need some estrogen in the house,
Huh?
in the family, huh?
Hmm?
Need some estrogen in the family.
We talked about it.
Well, you never knew, did you know his name Peacock? Who? You like Peacock?
Why does that sound familiar?
Why am I up there? She was a teacher for 40 years at
I
Mall.
probably know her if I
Well,
saw her.
she passed away
Okay.
a year ago, and she always knitted. So I had a baby shower to go to, and she knitted her last pink blanket for the baby shower. I know it was the baby shower. I have her last knitted blanket. It's pink
Mhm.
in the closet. So when Karen told me that she was gonna have a baby, I'm like, gotta tell you something. The night before, that night, Friday night, I dreamt that I gave you that pink blanket for Christmas. She goes, well, Mom. Yeah,
Needed
so
one
I had that
then.
in the closet.
More than one. I heard Rachel came by. He said, I wanted to see the baby. Rachel,
Oh, my, Murray, yes. He's just horrible.
I know, when
I miss her.
I miss her too.
I really like Rachel.
Her and I got along great, because I was in her room and it was just like, we had this nice rapport, and she just let me do what I needed to do. But
you have to order healthy stuff, I guess.
Right.
We always had salads.
Gotta do salads. We will have salads. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is it gonna surprise you if I say we have an agreement on the per diem and coverage and also on appendix B, part A and B? For those 2 to 42. And then accepting what we proposed out for, with the board did as the proposals on the per diem and coverage. So do you all mind doing the tentative? Okay. Then I just, so thank you for letting us step out for a moment there so we can get that, and we're glad that we got one of them knocked off. In terms of scheduling for the next time, I think, one of the things I would add, we have a holiday coming up. And the board, needs to be able to have a conversation before we come back and we need to do, because we have to run some things. So, in terms of scheduling it out, I think we're looking at the last 2 weeks of January, potentially. I don't know what the dates are looking, right?
The 8th and the 15th is a holiday.
Is there, you have a Martin,
The
you have Martin?
last two Mondays in January, the 22nd and the 23rd.
Oh, the last 2 Mondays,
Right,
27th,
because,
29th.
it's because there's, you come back, what, on the 2nd?
Come back the 2nd.
And then there's Martin Luther King Jr. Day,
Yep,
correct?
the
If I'm wrong, on the 15th, so that kind of kills that.
I get my actual birthday off. Okay, so January
So if
26th.
if I'm looking at that,
So what are they looking at?
we're looking at basically the 22nd or the 29th to be able to, if we stick with a Monday.
Nick and I cannot do the 29th.
So you want to just do the 22nd?
Can you guys,
Professional learning for administrators and that.
okay, can we do the can we agree to the 22nd? Is that available?
That's not,
No, the 15th is right.
15th is.
Right, that's why I got that.
So we're meeting at 4:30 again?
22nd.
Yes. And if you guys can all stick around just for 2 minutes after.
And we can pick
we can talk.
a
We
work
can
day.
pick a work day. And make sure that we have the work day right. All right,
This is my brother's birthday that day, I guess I'll miss his party.
Bring
Yes.
cake.
so, so we will have a response to what you provided tonight. To start off that meeting, and I don't think it's gonna take the whole meeting. And then we can roll into discussing other provisions. We can do that.
Yeah, we do want to make sure that,
The safety.
that you guys are prepared with the safety, with looking at what we've already done there and discussing that with us. We will be prepared to talk about our safety plans. Dedicate that to.
Okay. I think that's fine. So, all right, great.
Oh, great, so we're over here half hour early.